Charlotte as she exemplifies what it means to be a Wendell Wolf, dedicated, resilient, and most of all, kind. That's so very nice, and that was sent to me by your principal and your teachers, so thank you for that. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches from St. Eugene's Catholic Church, we're going to hear from Deacon John Class. Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Lord, we ask your blessings on the people who have been called to lead the community in which we live, work, and play. Grant them the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right, good, and true. May they speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May they always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. Amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it passes. Public comment period, we'll move into that next. You can sign up for public comment period the night of the meeting in person, or you have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk by the Friday before the board meeting by 5. If you do it that way, please include your name, address for the record. And the comments that are received by that time frame will be read into the record for 3 minutes. So it's still 3 minutes no matter what. Our first person is Edie Now. We have 2 tonight.
My name is Edie Nowell. I live at 1016 Lake Lad Road, Wendell. The only thing I'd like to say in looking over this agenda, does Wendell really, really need another alcohol location? Will this make 5 or 6? What I'd like to see this board do, get with the Chamber of Commerce, get your economic development crew back together, research and bring us at least 1, if not 2, family restaurants downtown Wendell. So think about that. Does it really, really need another bar, tavern? How about a restaurant that a family can sit down and enjoy a meal together?
Thank you. Our next person signed up is Caitlin Gooch.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Gooch. My address is 6400 Knightdale Eagle Rock Road, Wendell. I have been having an ongoing issue with the delivery drivers and construction site workers. Where the farm is and my house, Wendell Falls is directly behind it and beside it. And they're driving extremely fast down our dirt road because GPS is taking them to Poinsettia Lane instead of taking them into Wendell Falls. I've sent a lot of emails and messages back and forth with Amazon. It's mainly Amazon and FedEx. And they're getting lost essentially. And then they're literally driving on the farm too, like behind the barn, trying to get to Wendell Falls. Like, it's a mess. And I've received maybe like 2 or 3 packages because they just leave them at the farm because they can't find a way to get to Wendell Falls. So I would really love some help in figuring out this GPS issue, just because when we do start back up, there's kids out there, animals out there, and the way that they're driving is just not safe for anybody. And I would love for everybody to be safe and for people to actually get their packages. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's move into our section 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. And item 4A is the recognition of Wendell Middle School staff member, Ms. Samantha Worley. Thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for having me. Samantha Worley has been a dedicated member of our Wendell family for many years. During her time in Wendell, she has always been willing to serve in leadership roles and change her teaching assignment, sometimes drastically, to meet the needs of our students. Ms. Worley was a 6th grade math teacher before becoming an 8th grade math teacher, but now she is living her very best life as our agriculture and animal science teacher. Each time we see her outside in her boots with building materials, we are assured that she has indeed found her true calling. We want to spotlight Ms. Worley because she is always invested in our school and our community. Because of her willingness to take this huge leap, our students are getting the chance to learn in class and also enjoy the camaraderie of the FFA club. We know that taking on new content as well as the chickens that come with it was a huge undertaking. But when we look at the beautiful garden area, the renovations to the chicken mansion, that's so cute, and the smiles on the students' faces, we know that Ms. Worley has found the role that was meant for her. We are appreciative of her constant leadership, her passion for students, and her contagious enthusiasm. That is so nice.
Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you for everything that you do for our kids in Wendell. And that's why we wanted to have you here tonight, to thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Do you have
you.
anything you want to?
I just want to say that I love working with the students and staff at Wendell Magnet Middle, and taking on this new role has been so much fun for me, and it's just been really great to see the excitement for the kids, too. So,
I need to come
thank you.
check out the chicken mansion. I'm curious
Yeah.
about that. So, well, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, item 5A, or 5, we'll move into our public hearings. Item 5A is an evidentiary hearing on special use permit request by Dan Henry of Pace Yourself Run Company to allow a bar tavern nightclub at 8 East 3rd Street, PIN number 17837900628. We need the town attorney to give us the rules of evidentiary hearings, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is a due process hearing or an evidentiary hearing where witnesses are sworn. There's opportunity for examination and cross-examination of witnesses. Unlike a legislative hearing, the board takes the evidence and applies it to the standards in the ordinance to determine whether those standards have been satisfied. If they have been, then the permit is allowed, and if they haven't been, the permit would be denied. The statutes require that substantial, competent, and material evidence must be presented in order to carry the burden of production of evidence, and that witnesses who are going to testify on a matter of an expert subject matter would have to have the credentials to testify in that fashion.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone who wishes to provide testimony in this hearing needs to step forward and be sworn by the clerk. All right, we'll open the evidentiary hearing and have our staff report. Ms. Griffin,
Good evening.
good evening.
Again, this special use hearing is for Pace Yourself Run Company, who has requested a special use permit for a bar tavern nightclub at 8 East 3rd Street. Pace Yourself Run is a retail specialty shoe store. Retail is permitted by right in the DMX Downtown Mixed Use District. However, the sale of beer and wine under the way our UDO is currently written does require a special use permit when alcohol is not part of a larger restaurant. Again, bar tavern nightclub, excuse me, means a business where alcoholic beverages are sold for on-site consumption, which is the differentiation there between on-site and off-site, which are not part of a larger restaurant. It includes bars, taverns, pubs, and similar establishment where any food service is subordinate to the sale of alcoholic beverages. May also include beer brewing as part of a microbrewery and other beverage tasting facilities. Entertainment, including live music and or dancing, comedy, etc., may also be included. There you see in DMX the one additional condition, which is no such facility shall be located within 300 feet of the property line of a lot containing a church, school, or any residential district. The subject property is over 500 feet away from the nearest residential district. The surrounding properties do include a restaurant, bars, taverns, retail, office and personal services, a proposed coffee shop, proposed event space, and an indoor recreation space. You have special use permit criteria to evaluate the request from, that the proposed use does not adversely affect the general plans for the physical development of the town. The proposed use will not be contrary to the purposes of the regulations. The proposed use will not adversely affect the health and safety of residents or workers in town. The proposed use will not be detrimental to the use or development of adjacent properties. The proposed use will not be affected adversely by existing uses. The proposed use will be placed on a lot of sufficient size to satisfy space requirements for the use. The proposed use will not constitute a nuisance or hazard because the number of persons who will attend or use the facility. The standards set forth for each particular use or project have been met. The board may impose or require additional restrictions and conditions as deemed necessary to protect health and safety of the residents and workers in the community. The proposed use shall be subject to the minimum area setback and other location requirements, and the proposed use shall be subject to off-street parking and service requirements of the UDO. This site is within the downtown mixed-use DMX zoning district, which does again allow for bar, tavern, nightclub with a special use permit. Like most downtown properties, the business will utilize public parking lots that are in the area and on-street parking. There are 2 municipal parking lots located within 2 blocks of the use. The building is already connected to water and sewer. Blueprint Wendell 2030 comp plan does classify this area as downtown core, which lists commercial uses such as retail and restaurants as appropriate uses for the area. The Town of Wendell planning staff presents a staff analysis but does not make a recommendation on special use permits. We did advertise and send notification letters as required under general statutes, and the applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting on September 14th at the store. No one attended from the neighboring properties. We would ask as staff that if you grant the special use permit, that you add a condition that all applicable building permits, laws, and codes are obtained or maintained. I can answer questions, and the applicant is here as well to answer questions.
All right, any questions right now from the board? You want to wait?
I have a question,
Okay.
and this may be an extrapolation. I've been here about 5 minutes, so if I go out of bounds, let me know. So, Mr. Henry, as a percentage, I know you haven't done this yet, but maybe from the parent store, how much of the sales will be core running versus beer or alcohol?
I'm going to let you give your name and address.
My name is Dan Henry. I live at 220 Springside Drive in Holly Springs. Our current stores, it is less than 5% of our sales is beer and wine. We're a shoe store.
Thank you,
that
sir.
sells beer.
Did you want to go ahead and give a presentation you want to make?
I don't really have much of a presentation per se. I'll just say that this is our 3rd store, and in Holly Springs and Southern Pines, our other 2 stores, we have beer and wine, and like I said, it's a small percentage of our business. Mostly we do a run club that starts and ends at the store 1 night a week, and that's just about the vast majority of our beer business is then.
Are there any questions for the petitioner? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no citizens were sworn in addition, so are there any questions from the board for staff or the petitioner?
Madam Mayor, I move,
Wait,
I'm sorry.
close the public hearing. All right, now. Jason never wants to let me close the public hearing.
I move we grant special use permit to allow bar, tavern, nightclub at 8 East 3rd Street.
And there was a condition
And,
about applicable building permits. What was the wording of that again? I didn't get that. Okay.
to grant a special use permit and recommend the following condition, that all applicable building permits, laws, and codes are obtained or maintained.
So we have a motion to grant the special use permit with the condition that all applicable building permits, laws, and codes are obtained or maintained. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into our administrative items. Item 6A is a fee waiver request by the Wendell Chamber of Commerce to host the Wendell Chamber Banquet at the Wendell Community Center. Mr. Pulaski. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. The Wendell Chamber of Commerce requests a fee waiver to host their Wendell Chamber Banquet at the Wendell Community Center on January 25th from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. On December 6th, the Wendell Chamber of Commerce submitted a request to use the Wendell Community Center for their annual chamber banquet. The banquet will be used to recognize local business achievements for the previous year and is also used as a networking event for these local businesses. They would begin their setup at 3 p.m. with the event, excuse me, their event starting at 3 p.m. with their event lasting until 6, or the event from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and cleanup would conclude by 10. The event is not open to the public. They're expecting around 240 people to attend, which would necessitate one police officer since they're serving alcohol and one Parks and Recreation staff member there. The non-waived fees, these are fees that cannot be waived, would be one part-time staff member at $200, the one police officer at $140, the dumpster fee of $125, and a cleanup fee of $250 for a total of $715 to be paid. The Parks and Recreation Commission did meet on January the 2nd and voted unanimously in favor of this fee waiver. And Rogers here, if he wants to come up and speak about the event, any?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Roger Peterson. I live at 4490 Wendell Boulevard. I'm the Executive Director of the Wendell Chamber of Commerce. Certainly appreciate the work that Parks and Rec has done to bring this here today. We are certainly looking forward to our 76th annual meeting and banquet. It will be I think, a great affair to recognize and honor Wendell businesses. We've had 46 new businesses join the Chamber of Commerce in 2023, and 3 so far this year. So a lot to do. It'll be a great time and a great opportunity to really honor the town, and appreciate your positive consideration of this fee waiver request.
Any questions from the board? What's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I move we grant the fee waiver request for the Wendell Chamber Banquet.
We have a motion to grant the fee waiver request for the Wendell Chamber of Commerce banquet. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone was opposed? All right, item 6B is a downtown improvement grant application for 18 East 3rd Street. Mr. Garner?
Good evening. Quick turnaround on this one. The town has received its first application for the newly created and adopted Downtown Improvement Grant from Carrie Askew for Parallax Coffee, which is located, or will be located at 18 East 3rd Street. The application is for work related to the renovation and restoration of the currently vacant property into a coffee shop. The work includes improvements such as exterior doors, windows, hardware, storefront frames, exterior painting, exterior lights, masonry repair, the installation of a grease trap, replacement of a roof cap, and relocation of electrical wiring underground. The applicant has provided all required items for consideration under the policy and includes multiple quotes for each component of the renovation. The applicant has requested a Tier 4 grant, which is the largest grant, eligible for up to $50,000 according to the policy, which has a required score of at least 15 points on the scoring matrix, which is attached to the application. The applicant has provided their scoring assessment, which resulted in a score of 18. The total project costs for eligible expenses in their application is $45,964.85. So half of that which the applicant has requested, is a grant amount of $22,982.43. At its meeting on December 13th, the Downtown Development Committee voted unanimously to recommend approval of the grant with the application, with the removal of 2 points for the improvement of multiple facades from the scoring. That doesn't change their tier designation, moving it from 18 to 16 points, so they're still eligible for a Tier 4 grant. Staff finds the provided materials sufficient and concurs with the applicant's scoring and recommends approval of the Tier 4 grant for $22,982.43. And then just briefly, the site, 18 East 3rd Street, is there for you, sort of near the corner of 3rd and Pine Streets. That is a picture of the building as it sits today on the right there. And then this is the proposed exterior facade on the left, and the interior rendering on the right. And then as well, I've included the scoring matrix from the grant policy, as well as the sum of the eligible expenses and grant categories for the actual project. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here to speak on the project as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
One more quick question. Just so I'll know, the two facades that were there, I'm going to guess at this, obviously there's two sides of the building. You can see one facade, you can see the other. If it doesn't have street frontage immediately, is that what disqualifies it as opposed to sort of the parking lot that's there?
So the specific language in the grant says that it fronts public right-of-way. So technically, the east side of this building only fronts through a narrow alley in the back. The rest of it, the entire property line, is along another piece of property. However, as you can see in the picture, the majority of the improvement of the building, the most visible part of the building, is actually the east side as opposed to the front, which is the part that mostly faces or fronts a public
So
right-of-way.
I'll make one point to that, and that's kind of my point. I'm certainly in favor of what I see in front of me, but for value add for staff, it may be in this situation, if this had been 13 points and you need the other two, I would think we'd want to look at this from a language standpoint and have the ability to have the flexibility to give that 15 if we were on the edge, because you can see it, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the downtown improvement grant application for Parallax Coffee at 18 East 3rd Street.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the downtown improvement grant application for Parallax Coffee at 18 East 3rd Street. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all. Item 6C is the appointment to the Wake County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members.
Good evening.
This first item before you is to appoint a citizen to participate in the updating of the Wake County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. That is a joint project for all of municipalities in Wake County and Wake County government to update mitigation plans, hazard mitigation plans, which are required for FEMA funding in the case of a disaster and projects. So Wake County has received state funding to update that plan. It was last updated in 2019. It is due to be finished and wrapped up and approved at the end of 2024. In their process, they have staff and they have a resident from each municipality serving on that working group. It involves a few meetings throughout the year. Staff is a little more involved in making sure that projects are identified that, you know, from a stormwater standpoint, from a floodplain standpoint, and other kind of hazards that could exist or do exist. And so they are looking for an appointment from a resident from the town of Wendell to participate in this process. The kickoff meeting is coming up this month, and the town and kind of the resident participation would end this summer when they plan to submit the updated document to the state for review and approval. It is key to note that Nathan Slaughter with ESP actually is a Wendell resident, and he is leading the charge to update this plan. So there is a Wendell resident who is working on this plan, but we do need a resident from our jurisdiction. And so just wanted to bring this to you that we request that you all discuss, and it hopefully can identify a citizen representative for the project.
Okay, yeah.
Did somebody do this during 2019, 2020, the last update?
Yes, the resident position was held by John Olson.
It would be my recommendation that we reappoint Mr. Olson to fill his role. He's a volunteer chief with the fire department. He served primarily in this role for Wake County EMS when he was with Wake County EMS, and he knows Wake County's government system probably similar to you, Mr. Coates. He's worked there before, so he understands how things work.
Is that a motion, or is that just your comment?
Happy to make it in the form of a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to, did anyone else have any comment they wanted to make? Okay. We have a motion to appoint John Olson to participate, to be the citizen representative, to participate in updating the Wake County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No.
I will email him this evening to verify that he has time for the commitment, so.
If for some reason you can't, I guess you'll come back.
I will come back to you if he is
Okay.
unable, yes.
Okay.
Voluntold. We appreciate him being voluntold.
I'll let him know that. And I do have the next item.
I'm sorry, I
That's
thought you
okay.
were going to say something else about the I was like, I even looked at it, I was like, I don't think there's any more. Okay,
No.
community funding, area program application update for the continuation of microtransit service.
Yeah, I actually came to you back in early fall. The microtransit that is currently operating in Rollsville, Wendell, Zebulon, and Wake County's jurisdiction, the funding is set to expire June 30th of 2024. There was a pilot program and then some extensions of funding that kept that service in place. The county and the three towns, eastern towns that were involved in the program had a variety of meetings. Rollsville decided to proceed with service with Wake Forest and Raleigh, as that's where their interest is for everyday needs. Knightdale, Wendell, Zebulon decided to partner together with Wake County. Wendell we are the lead applicant and responsible for the application and the funding and all the paperwork that will go with this. So to give you an update of where we are today, I'll go through this quickly. Implements your strategic plan, which recommends continuing the microtransit service and also implementing the regional bus plan. This service currently exists. I think we all know from residents that they find it very helpful getting to, grocery, doctor's appointments, things within the eastern region. Also implements quite a few goals in Blueprint Wendell 2030. So excited to continue this project and apply for this funding. Some fiscal year 2025 changes. As I mentioned, Rollsville is going to be joining with Wake Forest and Raleigh to create their own microtransit. There wasn't a whole lot of ridership between Rollsville and Wendell and Zebulon. They are very heavily focused to Wake Forest and Raleigh for their daily needs. However, we do get Knightdale is joining, and with that, so there's a lot of excitement about what that brings to the service, as our residents will now be able to go to things in Knightdale, and also Knightdale residents can come to Wendell or Zebulon for things as well. Also, one big thing that could change ridership is Wake Tech opening in the fall of 2024. And then right now, the service is still planned to be Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. In the Wake County Transit Plan that's been in existence now for about a decade, there are 4 big moves listed. And one of those is enhanced transit in those outside of the areas that don't have a lot of transit service that you see highlighted in green, which include Knightdale, Wendell, Zebulon. One key to note is Wake County is not eligible for this funding. It is community funding for those towns in green. It's a 50% match for whether you're planning transit, capital planning, operating, or projects that combine those services. Community area funding program requires a 50% match. Working with Wake County, which provides Go Wake Access, provides the service. Fiscal 25, the operational service for that program is roughly $480,000. As I mentioned, Wendell is the lead applicant with our partners of Zebulon and Knightdale. For the application, Wake County is supportive of it and sent letters of support, but they are not eligible for any funding based on the transit plan. Total cost for the municipalities of Knightdale, Wendell, Zebulon is $413,000. For a 50% split, we're asking for $206,814 of transit funds, which equals about $70,000 each for the three municipalities. Moving forward, based on ridership, Knightdale is a big unknown. They have not had microtransit service, so we don't know what their ridership will look like. There will be some growing pains of how will they use it, how many people will switch and try to go from Wendell and Zebulon to Knightdale for doctor's appointments, shopping, and vice versa. I mean, Knightdale residents will now be able, once the service kicks in, get to the senior center for programs. So we don't know all of the numbers just yet. So for this first year, we split the cost $70,000 each. All three municipalities have committed matching funds. That in the future, based on ridership, we could continue splitting the cost, or we could break it out by percent of ridership. Moving forward, the three towns and Go Wake in the county will meet monthly to discuss ridership, where people are going, what that looks like, what's the demand. And so I'll go over a few things in a minute of some potential items for discussion as the service moves forward. We did submit our application Friday night. We had till midnight. I want to say we got it in at 10:30 p.m., so just before the deadline. Partnership, everyone was supportive. We got letters of support from the county and all the municipalities. Go Wake Access has a lot of great data, so we could easily tell the story of where people are going. When you set up a service that people need to go to everyday things, and you can easily show that they're going to Walmart, senior center, high school, those are everyday places, doctor's appointments. So we feel it's a very strong application, and we will know hopefully by April 17th if we are funded. I will say this, for the project, it is the first joint application of this funding. Traditionally, a lot of towns have applied on their own. So I think it's great that we all partnered, and will be a successful project. Funding would begin July 1. An item that will come back to you will be an interlocal agreement of how we submit payments for that project, and other things that if we want to work out in the future, how the cost will be shared between the municipalities. Some additional needs, as I mentioned, we don't know the demand in Knightdale, so we'll have to watch numbers and see how that impacts the service. Origin and destination, how that changes with Wake Tech. We know Wake Med is opening this week as well, so there's facilities that could drive additional trips. Fifth vehicle, right now the service has 4 vehicles for the geography that it serves. There could be a 5th vehicle. Right now, we know that cost just to lease that vehicle for a year is $23,000. You'd have to add a bus driver and additional calls at the call center. So there is some additional cost to adding a vehicle. But that could be an option moving forward. Also, weekend hours. What if we added Saturdays? And what does that service look like? So there's things we're going to talk about monthly as a group. I'll bring you updates as we go. I know last time I was here, I think Commissioner Joyner had a question on when the service switched from Uber to EcoLane. The ridership has not changed. There's still demand. The amount of people using the app dropped because Uber is such a well-known app where EcoLane is not. So they did notice a little bit dip in who was using the app to book a ride. So some of the people switched to the call center, but it's improving as people get used to EcoLane. But there was a little blip, but overall ridership is still increasing for the service. I can field any questions that you may have and talk about the service.
So this will be in next year's budget, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I have a couple. Do we have, or when will we have an updated, like the boundary map, the geofence map?
Yeah, so we submitted one through the application. It's going to be fine-tuned, and we'll get an actual official map as well. Also, one thing to note, where previously I think it was the northeast microtransit, the northeast part will be dropping, and it will just be kind of the east or just microtransit for the name will change a little bit for the service since it no longer includes Rollsville.
Okay. Did you have another one? I would be interested in periodic updates too about ridership, where people are starting, where they're going. And I'd like to see that map once that's available as well, please. Any other questions? Do you have, okay.
You know, I've always got a little, I want to let you go.
I'm trying to.
I know that the county can't be an applicant, as you said. However, there's a lot of county residents that don't live in any of these three towns that are going to have a really big service provided to them by our towns, which is fine, and I'm for that. But I think it may be worth, if it's a possibility, us asking the county to contribute in the future, as we're thinking about the long term.
So they are contributing roughly 77,000. They don't get a 50% match. The total service is 480.
Okay,
The town
I
costs
gotcha.
are 413.
So they're doing a similar amount. Sorry, gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, and they're not eligible for the 50% match.
I got it.
So,
And then, related to the data, I know that in the past, I can't remember if data point was called dropped calls or unfulfilled requests, but I think that's a really important one, especially as we're thinking about a fifth vehicle, and mainly fifth vehicle, is just making sure that that continues to be as we're getting updates, a number that I'd be really interested in
yeah,
watching.
in fiscal '23, there was about 1,500 requests for rides that were unable to be fulfilled. So the county Go Wake Access is going to keep monitoring that and determine, each vehicle holds at least 9 people currently. And so adding a vehicle has a cost, but it can also move, you know, if it's 9 to 12 people in that, and say there's a group going from Nightdale to Wake Tech or Wendell to Target in Nightdale, the more you can get using those seats, that brings the cost down, but also just the demand for the service. There's some program goals, which is people are not waiting more than 20 minutes for the vehicle to show up, and then the trip, potentially removing Rollsville creates a shorter trip geography, like the occasional Rollsville resident who did use it to get to Zebulon or Wendell, it's a further trip than just a Wendell to Nightdale. And so there could be some benefits there in shorter trips for the vehicles. So.
We also have our own Bojangles now too, so we don't need to go to Rollsville anymore. There's that.
Were the dropped people because they could not be accommodated because they were full, or did they not show up when the bus arrived, or do you know?
So there's a canceled trip option.
Okay.
So the unfulfilled trips I don't believe are canceled. So if you book a ride and then 10 minutes later say, hey, you know, someone's gonna pick me up, you can cancel. That doesn't count as a non-fulfilled trip.
Okay.
The unfulfilled might be you booked it at 6:55 at night and the service ends at 7, and so they're gonna be like, hey, we can't take you from Zebulon to Rollsville.
I know when it was still on Uber, and I don't know if this changes with the new platform, but like I requested one time, and it sort of spun for 5 or 10 minutes, and after a certain period of time of it not being able to connect me to a vehicle that my trip fit into its route and its current availability, it just sort of took me back to the home screen and like basically find a different Uber option instead of this one. And I assume that that's part of the unfulfilled, and I've never really.
Yeah, there's also some trips, like, for example, East Wake High. If one student books a trip and the van gets there thinking they're picking up one student and they're really supposed to pick up 12 that they can't fit in the van. So then there's fulfilled trips and unfulfilled trips. And so they've tried to work with the student body to be more realistic and admit that you're bringing 3 friends so that the driver
Just let 'em
expects.
know.
Yeah, just let them know so they can plan for it. So there's some.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was, just a couple comments. I was gonna say, you know, obviously, it sounds like we have kind of a 3-part unknown, maybe more, but Rollsville dropping off, adding Nightdale, what does that, you know, create? The 1,500 unfulfilleds with a new vehicle. And you kind of answered, we're gonna split it into thirds now, but we'll just kind of wait and see, I guess. Will there be an opportunity, if it presents an issue 6 months down the road rather than a year? I mean, do we have any kind of contingency plan?
So the software actually has some parameters on it. So you can only book so many seats because there's only so many vehicles with the seat available. So there's limitations in the system. There's also the times. I think originally we would love to add weekends, but that may take a lot more vehicles and staffing that might need to ramp up to that. The monthly meeting, originally we were thinking quarterly, and then with some of the unknowns, we're like, let's meet monthly. So if there's an issue 3 months in where we might need a few more $1,000s, we want to be able to be prepared and come back to all 3 town boards and see what our options are once the service gets going. They are going to be marketing first to maybe the seniors in Nightdale, ramp it slowly in getting people used to it, because if it's a free-for-all that first few weeks, it could be rough. And so their goal is to bring populations in slowly at a time. And then with Wake Tech, the unknown is there. With the amount of commercial that Nightdale has, it is a hub for Eastern Wake County. And so there could be a lot more trips generated to get to medical appointments in Nightdale that didn't exist this past year.
Well, and I also wanted to say thank you for taking the lead on it. 'Cause,
You're welcome.
You know, when we had the report previously, top 5 was our senior center, so
Yep.
that certainly is important, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move into our other business, updates on board committees by town board members, and we'll start with the Wendell Volunteer Fire Department. I think it's the only one we have tonight.
And it was
Commissioner
delayed.
Joyner.
It was delayed, Madam Mayor.
Delayed, okay. And we'll start with you with our comments for the evening.
I have one thing that I was told to remember. The Wendell Rotary Oyster Club roast, or Wendell Rotary Club Oyster Roast. And Joe, who serves as, with John, or everyone on this board can tell you all about it. And we'll let, if you need a ticket, call Joe. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz,
No comment tonight.
Commissioner Eman,
Nothing else tonight.
Commissioner Honeycutt.
Real quick, the reason why, and I like to, for transparency reasons, the reason why I asked that question, I've seen Ms. Now come in quite frequently, and I want to make sure that citizens of Wendell know that when you make a statement, we do listen, and we try to listen to what you're saying, and I don't want to say what we should or shouldn't do business-wise about bars or restaurants or tavern, but I think the question you said was 95% to 5, and I think you're a destination-run club. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Deloach.
Well, we've mentioned the oyster roast, Madam Mayor. I will leave it at that. No comment. Happy New Year.
Real quickly, last week, all of us attended the ribbon cutting at Wake Med Wendell Healthplex. We're really, really excited about that. If you haven't been by, it's actually opening tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., so I'm not sure that they'll give you a tour, and I hope you don't have to see it because you're sick, but it's beautiful, and we're lucky to have it right here in Wendell. I appreciate Wake Med for continuing to maintain their commitment to make this happen. It's been a long, long time coming, and there's a few of us that have been around long enough that we remember that. So, opens tomorrow morning at 7. It has 12 private treatment rooms, lab X-ray, CT, and ultrasound testing, a dedicated ambulance receiving area, outpatient imaging services, so you can have a lot of things done there without having to travel to Raleigh. Board-certified emergency medical physicians and specialty physicians are available to see you. So I look forward to their growth. I understand that's going to happen, but I'm not going to spill their secret. And our continued partnership with them to bring health care to our residents. So that. Second thing, can someone from our staff, because I've gotten this comment before, can we figure out what's going on with GPS and these roads? Do we need a sign out there? What do we need to do to make that stop? Because this isn't the first time I've heard that. So if we could take a look at that. The second thing, and I don't usually address public comment too much, but we have tried very hard to get restaurants in Wendell. We have incentivized it tremendously, more than we had anything else during the time I've been on this board. Restaurants are the most expensive thing to open, and they're the very first thing to fail. So, yes, I would love more restaurants too. Oh my goodness, there's a couple really great ones that have opened at Tree Light Square. I've tried them all out. My husband loves them all. He loves this pork chop thing at Parkside. He loves it. I suggest you go and try it. That's a wonderful restaurant with the waiters and waitresses to serve you at your table. I'm sure that we will be getting more and more of those things as it becomes financially convenient for someone, and we do have incentives for that. And we do have a full-time economic development coordinator, and we work very hard to try to get restaurants here. So don't tell us that we don't. So that's that. The last thing that I want to just give you a quick reminder, we may be having some bad weather tomorrow, so just be careful and make good decisions about the weather. I'm not sure. I hope it will just be one of those things that comes and goes, and there was nothing to it, but you just don't know. So please be careful. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, I move we,
Do we have a closed session? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move we go into closed session, reference North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11, A4 and 5, both real estate and economic development matters.
All right, we're going into closed session.